Tim Kerr. I'm a principal product manager here at GitLab, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the new API Fuzz Testing capability being released with GitLab 13.4. API Fuzz Testing is a great way to find bugs and security vulnerabilities in your application that other processes and tools might have missed. The way this works is by looking at your application and what its typical inputs and output combinations are, and try new combinations of automatically generated inputs to find edge cases that will cause those bugs to appear. So I'm going to walk you through an example and show you how you can use this inside of GitLab 13.4 on your own applications. I'm sharing my screen, and this repository is a basic Python application. It's using the Flask framework. So you can see in this code, it's defining a few different endpoints for this home page. It has an API set of endpoints as well, and each of those endpoints does a few different things. But so now what we want to do is look at how will I fuzz test this application? One of the great things about GitLab's API fuzz testing is that if you already have an open API specification for your application, which many apps do, you can use that function or you can use that file directly. Luckily, our example repo has one of these. So we can actually look, and this is the open API definition that's describing what our Flask application is doing. Rather than looking at that Python code, you can easily see it has a number of APIs related to users and getting them, updating information, as well as deleting them. So we can actually take this open API definition and provide that directly to the fuzz testing inside of GitLab. I'm looking at the GitLab CI file that defines how pipelines are run inside of GitLab. All you need to do to add fuzz testing to your apps is include the API fuzz testing template as part of your CI pipeline. And then from there, define several required variables. These are to point out the location of that open API file, as well as what the URL of your application will be hosted at. This example has a number of other optional configuration parameters. These are going to be in the documentation. This is just related to the specific demo I'm showing you right now. These are not required. The only required ones are going to be, again, that open API definition and the target URL. Once we've added this to our pipeline, let's take a look and see what this will look like. So I've run this job a little while ago, and we can see our one API fuzzer job ran. After it ran, it populated our test tab with the results that it found. So let's take a look at that. So we can see that it ran one test, fuzzing injection on this API users API, and it found something. So if we look at it, it'll give us a description a little bit more about what it's doing. It'll talk about the mutation or what that randomly generated value it created was. In this case, it originally started with 1 and changed it into this string of ones. And if we scroll down, we can see that we get an internal server error or an HTTP 500 error when this long string of ones was used. And this is fuzz testing finding a bug. This is exactly what we're trying to do with API fuzz testing, is find these sorts of bugs so that you can then take the next step to figure out why this caused the HTTP 500 error, figure out why this crashed the application, and so you can fix it before it gets to a production environment. So this is great, and we're really excited to be offering API fuzz testing with open API specifications, but a question might be, what do I do if I don't have an open API specification? Can I still use API fuzz testing? And the answer is yes. So let's take a look at another way that you can use API fuzz testing in GitLab 13.4. We know that not all users have open API specs, so we also support using an HAR file or an HTTP archive file as an input to inform the fuzzer. There are a number of different resources online you can look at to figure out how to generate this file, but essentially it's a recording of all of the different traffic that goes through a browser to an application. So if you don't have an open API spec, what you can do is record yourself or automatically interact with an application to generate all the different endpoints that you would want to begin fuzz testing against. So if you see in this repo, here's the HAR file that we'll use, this test rest target.har. And let's look at how we would provide that to our fuzz testing. So again, we would include this template file, the API fuzzing template, And instead of defining an open API file, we'll define fuzz API HAR and point to that HAR file. Again, we'll tell the CI pipeline where our URL is, and again, I'll provide that optional configuration for this specific application. So you can see it's very similar to use an HAR file or an API file when you're doing open API fuzz testing. So let's take a look again at what the fuzz tester found. We can see it found a number of different things. In this case, one interesting one I wanted to show, the fuzz tester is trying this API user/to endpoint. And in this case, rather than try to, the fuzz tester generated 65,576. And again, this found a similar, if not the same error that we saw with the open API specification. This internal server error came up. We can see some more details here, and then we get to that 500 internal server error. And so this is just an example of how you might use open API. You might use API fuzz testing on your applications. We're really excited to be shipping this as our first iteration in GitLab 13.4. We've got a lot more on the way. A couple things you can look forward to are making this workflow even more straightforward. We plan on populating these testing results in our security dashboard so you can take advantage of all the other powerful vulnerability management and security functionality inside of GitLab that you're already used to. We'd love to hear your feedback about API fuzz testing, whether it's positive or negative. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have a conversation. Again, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.